Piercing is the best career that I could have ever ended up in. If I could pierce for the rest of my life, it would be a very happy life. With that being said, this industry is one of the scariest industries that you could end up in, and it is very flawed. There's a lot of things going on in it that people outside of it don't really know about. Hey, it's Dre. Today we're going to be talking about my experience with the piercing industry and talking about some issues that I've faced. Really big disclaimer, this is my personal experience. I'm sure a lot of people have had a lovely experiences with their piercing journey and haven't seen the darker sides of the industry. What a blessing. Unfortunately, not all of us have experienced that blessing. I'm going to be talking about some darker themes today, so if topics of abuse trigger you, this video might not be for you. Just make sure you take care of yourself and watch with caution. Love y'all. Let's start at the beginning of the issue. A lot of states and countries have very loose laws when it comes to actual piercing. They might have tight laws about health and safety and cross contamination, maybe, but they don't actually have laws on the skills required to become a piercer. The education is really unregulated. So there's a few different ways that you can get your piercing education, but none of them are guaranteed to give you a good education. The first way to get your piercing education is through a piercing course. The issue with this is because there's no regulations on piercing skills, anyone could be teaching that course, even bad piercers. So you might not be actually getting good quality piercing education. But the second and bigger thing about this is that there is no piercing course that is comprehensive enough for you to leave the course as a fully certified piercer who can pierce anything and be fully successful. The tricky thing is education in piercing should be a lot longer than a lot of people make it out to be. These 2-week piercing courses, you're not seeing enough types of anatomy to really understand how to pierce different shapes and different circumstances. That comes with years of experience and seeing bodies. This is why a lot of professionals in this industry don't respect piercing courses, because if you've taken a piercing course and your education stopped there, you're probably not a fully reputable piercer, and you should probably find a way to continue your education, whether that be through a follow-up apprenticeship or APP courses or something. I don't know, girl, but keep going. The second way into this industry is through getting an apprenticeship. Now, apprenticeships are probably the best way to get your piercing education because you are basically shadowing someone for ideally at least a year and taking in all of their experience as your own and having someone actually watch you and supervise you in doing different piercings on different bodies and anatomy. And you've got so much time to it as well. However, apprenticeships are extremely vulnerable. This is because they're really hard to come by. Not everyone wants to train someone to take over their job. Not everyone wants to teach. Not everyone feels like they're good enough to teach. So when someone finds an apprenticeship, it's a big deal. And they'll do a lot of things to keep that apprenticeship. Like a lot of things. I've heard some awful abuse stories about apprenticeships. I'm lucky enough that my apprenticeship was just really hands off. Like the guy didn't really care to show me anything. I spent a year kind of fixing his work. I hope, fingers crossed, I was fixing his work. But yeah, it was not comprehensive enough, and I had to take it upon myself to further my piercing education, surround myself by quality piercers, and really listen to what good professionals were saying to even become a decent piercer. And then continue piercing, like get more years of experience to feel confident enough to say that I'm a good piercer. Unfortunately, for other people to get that quality education they're looking for, they'll experience long unpaid hours because at least their education's free, even though that's free labor and that's illegal in a lot of places in the world. Next one is literal abuse. These people, these mentors, can really take advantage of apprentices because they're so desperate for that education. That can come in verbal, that can come in physical, that can come in financial. There's so many ways. We could get into it, but I don't want to share too many people's personal stories. I also don't want to get censored. Anything that you can imagine has happened in this industry. Let's just leave it at that. So after your education, right, you're looking for work elsewhere. Something to watch out for is the different kind of studio owners that there are. The first one that comes to mind for me is these studio owners that aren't actually industry members. So they're not tattoo artists, they're not piercers, they're not any kind of body mod, anything. They just want to own a tattoo studio because it's cool and it makes them a lot of passive income. This can be positive in a sense that whatever work that you put out is your work. You usually don't have anyone telling you how to do things because your boss doesn't know how to do things. That can be nice. However, that's not all of it. And actually, this can be negative. If you're looking for quality materials or you want to do a certain practice, for example, being honest with your customers about them not having the anatomy, these kind of studio owners, they only really care that they're making money. So you might not get the equipment that you need if it's not deemed as necessary. You might not be able to do anatomy checks and turn clients down if your boss feels like, why are you turning away money? You know, a lot of people don't understand those things when they're not in the industry. These are definitely people to look out for. Unfortunately, they are more common than you think. In line with studio owners not actually caring about the work coming out of their shop, did you know that I have worked at 5 studios now where they have not interviewed me properly? Like they've hired me on the spot without watching me pierce. That is crazy that I could just have a good looking Instagram with a lot of different piercings. And because the studio owners don't know anything about piercing, they're like, good enough. I need a piercer. When can you start? On the spot. As long as I have a good vibe and a good Instagram, unfortunately, for a lot of studios, that's all it takes. And this is why, as a client, you should always do research on your piercer because a lot of them are just hired because the studio owner doesn't know better. Yeah. I actually recently just got a job where they actually interviewed me. Like there were several rounds of interviewing. So the first one was them talking about like my morals and the way that I like to work and making sure that I'm like a passionate piercer, which was so nice that someone actually cared for once. And then there was a round where I spoke to another manager, like my actual shop manager, which was really cool. Never did that before. And the last one was like a hygiene check. Like we went through like the entire setting up piercing and tearing down process and they made sure that I was actually a clean person. I have never been interviewed before in a way where they actually checked and made sure I was a hygienic piercer, which is crazy. That's shop number 6 in my career. Wild. Anyways, I start on January 22nd at Ashford and Miu in Amsterdam. So if you're interested in a clean piercer, let me know, Betty. So now let's talk about how studios are able to gaslight their clients into thinking that they are a safe studio. Studios have learned how to use specific language to make their clients think that the work is safe and hygienic and that the studio has the client in mind. My favorite example of this is surgical steel. Basically, the word surgical steel makes clients think that it is safe to be put in the body as long term wear for jewelry. Surgical steel is the kind of steel that our tools are made out of. So the clamps, the hemostats, the forceps, etc., those are made of surgical steel. But just because we use them for a procedure and it's in contact with skin for short periods of time, doesn't make it safe for long term wear. We're talking like months of this material in your skin versus a couple of minutes. Surgical steel is not implant grade, so it shouldn't be used for long term wear jewelry. The same thing goes for titanium. Not all grades of titanium are implant grade. Just because a studio says, oh yeah, our jewelry is titanium, we use titanium, doesn't mean it's high quality titanium. Now, if you go on the APP website, which is the Association of Professional Piercers, right? They have all the materials listed that are safe for piercing wear. There is different grades of titanium, surgical steel, platinum, niobium, gold, but basically everything is listed there. And also they have a list of brands or the brands will be certified by the APP. Those are like the safest materials. Now, I do understand that a lot of places in the world or a lot of communities don't have access to high quality materials because of maybe tariffs or financial barriers. Not a lot of studios are in very affluent areas. So their client base is not going to be buying high quality gold and like the most expensive titanium on the market. However, there should be some level of transparency there. If you're not using the most high quality stuff, don't say that you're using the most high quality stuff, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know, whatever. Actually, not whatever. Let's talk about that in the comments. How do you feel about what I just said? Because it's definitely a thinker. You want to be able to give your clients the best, but that is really subjective to the community and what the community needs and wants. Regardless, I'm sure there's a lot of things that I missed. This industry is very flawed, but at the end of the day, it is the love of my life, at least so far. I'm still pretty young, so that could change, but I don't see it changing anytime soon. Again, if I could pierce for the rest of my life, it would be a good life. So, hopefully, this industry gets better and all of the piercers as one can start working on making sure that this becomes a safer community. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys. Mwah!